look, your worst secret I already know. I had a woman tell me once that she couldn't understand why she'd been in a couple of long-term relationships, put herself totally into it, helped the guys get on their feet, and then the guys left them after they were doing well and on an even keel. And when this happens a couple times, you pretty much consider it a pattern. I didn't know enough about the situation to really address that, but what it reminded me of was the fact that we wind up in these cyclical, toxic relationships, or relationships that are so imbalanced that we're putting in, and getting absolutely nothing in return. For me, one example is when I was married, about 16 years into it, he decided by email once that he didn't want to be married anymore. And I had just had a conversation with this person and told him, look, your worst secret I already know. So if you're willing to work this out, I am too. And at the point where I saw clearly and he communicated clearly that he was not interested in working on the marriage, I cut my losses. It's similar when you're in a relationship and you find out that this person just keeps the negativity going. Either they being unfaithful, or maybe they're narcissistic, or it becomes clear to you early on that they are not as invested as you are in the relationship. And when I was writing the book, it dawned on me that I was caught in this type of cycle. It was like pushing a rope. Try that one day. See what that gets you. You can't push a rope. And no matter what potential I tried to support in several of the gentlemen that I had gone with in the past, it was just like trudging through mud. It just didn't work. And as it relates to my last marriage, again, like I said, it was 16 years. I had to realize as I was writing the book that maybe I was seeing something he didn't see. Maybe I was seeing the person that God created this person to be, but that he didn't see. Maybe all of the potential in the person I saw in him, the person that I apparently fell in love with, just didn't exist in reality. It was in him, but unless and until he came to realize himself like that, then it was never going to manifest anything other than disappointment for me. So in other words, you may fall in love with a person, and you may fall in love with qualities in that person that are unrealized in real life. You may see that person as God created them, but you're ignoring what life has twisted them into. And it's what life has twisted them into that they think are who they are, so they're acting accordingly. Unless that person comes to realize the potential that you've fallen in love with in them, you have fallen in love with a fantasy, plain and simple. Telling you like it is, telling you like it was with me. That's a fantasy waiting to happen until they become that person. So in other words, when life twists us all out of whack because of the trauma we've been through, then we have to put in work to return to who we were created to be. So it's not like you become a new person. I'm a new person. No, excuse me. You're the person you were all the time but didn't know it. So it's not what we see in those people. It's what those people see when they look in the mirror that matters in their lives. And unless and until they see looking back at them, the person you fell in love with, it's a fantasy waiting to happen. Now, the intricate part of this issue is that you have a traumatic past and you find yourself in this cycle, then you may decide, well, I'm never going to go with anybody else again. I'm never going to trust again. I'm never going to get into a relationship again. I'm not going to put myself into it like that anymore. And to some extent, probably a good freaking idea. But on the other hand, you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. You want to throw out the bathwater and nurture the baby. And what I mean is those aspects in you that allow you to see that in another person, that's a good thing. That's a God thing. That's something that is a positive thing in who you are. What's the problem is not controlling that and just willy-nilly giving that aspect of yourself out to just any Tom, Dick, and Harry or Mary, Jane, and Sue. You need to choose more wisely with whom you share that aspect of yourself. So you got two things. You can throw out the baby with the bathwater where I'm never going to do that again and I'm going to turn my back on that aspect of who I am and forget that. That's baby with the bathwater. And then there's nurturing the baby and throwing out the bathwater. You're nurturing the fact that that's a good thing in you. It's a positive thing in you, but you're just going to determine that with the bathwater, you're going to throw out your habit of just sharing that with anybody. Now, this is a major issue with most trauma survivors. We tend to put ourselves out there knowing we want better than the last thing we had, but because we have not fully returned to the real us, the real person, the person who has those special abilities, until we return to that and go through the healing process, we just keep repeating this cycle. I'm telling you because I've been there. We just keep getting into these toxic relationships over and over again because there's still something inside us that we need to deal with. So what I'm saying is this: we don't want to throw out all the good things that you are, the positive things that have, from your perspective, led you into these toxic relationships. It really didn't lead you into those toxic relationships. It's the unconscious and subconscious expectations that are tied to the trauma that keep drawing that into your life. It's not the good part of you who wants to give and love and can see that potential in people. That's not the problem. That's not the negative draw. That's a positive thing. It can't draw negative in your life. So since I'm talking about conscious versus subconscious expectations, I'd like to explain that to you. This too came to me as I wrote the book. We have conscious expectations. None of us are walking around here desiring to walk in and out of multiple toxic relationships. Most of us want better for ourselves. Many of us have prayed for it. Many of us have decided that we're willing to wait for it. But then the next thing you know, we're back in this freaking cycle of toxicity that is not good for us. And the cycle continues. You go through it. You get hurt. You grieve that. You decide to try again. And it's over and over again. So because none of us are desiring that, what is it that keeps overriding our conscious desires and expectations for a better in our lives? The undercurrent of subconscious expectations is what draws things into our lives. The subconscious expectations are tied to the trauma. So in other words, yes, I want better. I'm willing to wait for better, yada, yada, yada. But why do I keep going through these cycles? So what the problem is that our subconscious desires are bringing things into our life. Okay? It doesn't matter what you want, wish, desire, willing to wait for. As long as there's that thread of trying to protect ourselves, the thread of being at a heightened state of awareness, always hypervigilant inside, whether it's manifested for you physically or not, which generally it does manifest physically where you have anxiety, etc. But it's that thing that's still inside of us that's protecting ourselves from what we went through. We're never going to go through that again. Well, think about it. If you are constantly, not subconsciously, y'all, you're not consciously aware that this is going on. If you're subconsciously in a constant state of protection, the fight or flight is just waiting to kick off. You're trying to always protect yourself from not being hurt again. That sets up expectations that you will suffer that wrong again, that you will suffer that trauma again. We have no reason to protect ourselves for something we don't believe is going to happen, in other words. I hope this makes sense. So when we are at this state of constantly protecting ourselves, making these decisions inside, I'm never going to this, I'm never going to that, I'm not going to trust. Well, while those things are good on some level to protect us, unless we recognize that that's going on with us, they will never protect us from toxic relationships. They never will, because they are what's setting us up for another toxic relationship. I'm hoping this makes some kind of sense. So to sum it up, conscious expectations find us wanting better for ourselves. Subconscious expectations are what draws things into our lives. And if we don't address the subconscious expectations, if we are not aware that they exist, we will never break the cycle and the patterns of toxicity in our relationships. I hope this is making some sense. I'm just telling you what I figured out about my own being stuck like that. For me, it's been about 8 years since I've been in a relationship. Now, okay, y'all, that could be good. Good for you, Linda. You're healing. But if it's tied to those subconscious expectations that are based in fear, is that really a good thing? Is it? And so I need to figure out, am I isolating like this out of a subconscious fear that's going to just cause me to draw more of that toxicity in my life, okay? Or am I deliberately isolating because it's a healing thing, it's a positive thing, and I'm open for another relationship? I can't answer those questions yet. I'm still wrestling with that. But I can tell you I'm happy and content right now. But I also know that I need to discern for myself whether or not I have truly healed, addressed the subconscious expectations, and am I open enough to trust myself again, to go out there and have some fun, date, maybe have a great relationship with somebody. So you have to stay tuned for that, because I am clueless. I will keep you posted. But what I want you to take from this is be aware of how your defenses, your defense mechanism, your trauma self, the traumatic part that resides in us until we heal. Be aware of how that trauma expectations might be drawing that stuff into your life. And once you get a grip on that, then you will be in a better position to recognize that, okay, no, I'm not going to stand for this. Or no, I'm not going to stand for that. And no, been here, did this before, adios. I just want all of us to learn that we should take things very slowly. Because once you put your heart into somebody, that makes it even more painful and hard to pull away. And you want to protect your heart to the point where you can recognize somebody who's going to appreciate and reciprocate your values. You want to make sure that you're making a deliberate determination as to whether or not that person is willing and capable of reciprocating those values. Because we keep into these relationships with people who are incapable, unwilling. Either one, it doesn't matter which one it is, they need to be scratched off the list immediately. What do you do, swipe left? We need to figure out how we're going to determine that based on their behaviors, because these jokers will tell you anything, okay? And if those subconscious expectations are ruling your world, you will ignore every warning sign coming out of their mouth or in their behaviors. I'm just saying. So, there you go. That's it for this week. And you already know your greatest power is realizing the truth of who you are. Know that truth. Hey, if you like what you see here today, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you know when we upload, and like and share the video. Thanks.